Today, we're going to dive into the enormous power and the hidden dangers of big data. It's a technology that's already changing our world in some pretty profound ways, for better and, yeah, for worse.
So let's just start with the scale of this whole thing. Because you and I, we are generating a massive amount of data every single day, often without even thinking about it.
I mean, really think about it. Every time you click, every tap on your phone, every search you type, that's a piece of information you're feeding into a system. It's not just what you actively post or share, it's really about the little digital breadcrumbs you leave behind with every single interaction.
Every single one of these actions, the movie you streamed last night, the route you took to work, even the few seconds you hesitated over an online ad, it all creates a data point. And when you combine the data points from billions of people, well, you get these unbelievably huge data sets. And that, in a nutshell, is what we call big data.
And this phrase really gets to the heart of the central conflict, doesn't it? This incredible tool has the power to either help us or harm us on a massive societal scale. It's not inherently good or evil, but its effects can be profoundly one or the other.
On one side, the promise is just breathtaking. We're talking about AIs that can spot diseases earlier than a doctor, or data models that could help us build smarter, more efficient cities. But on the other side of that sword, the peril is just as real. We're talking about losing control of our own information, the quiet creep of mass surveillance and invasions of privacy on a scale we've never seen before.
So let's look at that first edge of the sword. Because it all starts with a concept that used to be pretty simple, but is now incredibly complicated: your consent.
For decades, in any kind of study involving people, informed consent has been the absolute bedrock of ethical behavior. It's all about respecting a person's autonomy by letting them make a free and, well, informed decision about whether or not to participate. It's a simple, powerful idea.
But here's the fundamental problem. The whole point of big data research is to find unexpected connections, patterns that no one even knew existed. So, as Professor Frumkin points out, if even the scientists don't know what they're going to find, how can they possibly inform you of all the risks? It makes true informed consent almost impossible.
And this is where things get really tricky, because even the data you willingly share in public can be analyzed to reveal things you would probably consider deeply private, and it can happen without you ever knowing.
This study is a perfect and, frankly, a pretty chilling example. Researchers just took publicly available photos from a dating site and used them to train an AI. That AI then became incredibly accurate at guessing someone's sexual orientation, just from their face. The people in those photos never, ever consented to their faces being used to build an analytical model like this. It just goes to show how easily our autonomy can be completely disregarded.
Okay, let's move on to the next big ethical challenge, which is equity. Because here's the thing about algorithms. They're only as fair, or as biased, as the data that we train them on. And a lot of the time, that data just reflects our own society's deep-seated inequities.
Take this real-world case. It involves a healthcare algorithm that was being used for millions of people. Now, it was designed to do something good, identify high-risk patients who needed some extra care. But it had a hidden systemic flaw baked right into it.
So the algorithm used this clever but totally flawed shortcut. It basically assumed that patients who cost the healthcare system more money were sicker. But here's the problem. Historically, less money is spent on black patients than on white patients, even when they have the same health conditions. So the algorithm incorrectly saw black patients as healthier, and it ended up recommending only about 18% of them for that extra care.
And look at the difference this made. When researchers fixed the algorithm to look at actual health markers instead of just cost, the percentage of black patients who were correctly identified for extra care, it skyrocketed. It went from 18% all the way up to 47%. It just revealed this massive automated inequity that was affecting real people's health.
So, here's another crucial point. Even when companies and researchers promise to make our data anonymous, that promise, well, it's often just an illusion. Our privacy is still very much at risk.
We're often told our data is safe because it's been de-identified. That just means our name and personal details have supposedly been stripped away. But researchers have shown, time and time again, that this is a false sense of security, especially when you start talking about genetic data.
And it's shockingly easy to do. One researcher, with basically no experience in this, was able to take so-called anonymized DNA data, compare it against public genealogy sites, and successfully re-identify multiple research participants. And get this, they did it in a single day.
The more public data there is out there, the easier it is to put the puzzle pieces of our identity right back together.
Okay, so faced with these huge challenges to our autonomy, our equity, and our privacy, what can we actually do about it? How do we wield this double-edged sword more responsibly?
Well, experts are proposing a whole range of solutions. On the technical side, we can literally build safeguards into algorithms to check for bias, and we can mandate that research uses data that actually represents everybody. Then, on the policy side, we could expand health privacy laws to cover big tech companies, not just your doctor's office. Or maybe even create new government agencies just to oversee all of this.
But there's an even deeper challenge here, and people call it the black box problem. As AI gets more and more complex, it can start to make decisions in ways that are, well, they're simply beyond human understanding. How can we make sure an algorithm is being fair if we can't even see its logic? That's a massive question we're only just beginning to ask.
At the end of the day, this technology is just a tool, but it's also a mirror, and it reflects the values that we choose to build into it. The critical question isn't just what big data can do, but what we as a society decide it should do. And that's a conversation that involves every single one of us.